Hello, everyone, and I am super excited to be bringing you this little extra bonus. So, as you have hopefully gone through all of the astrology panelists for 2022, this will be the last little link at the end of your email because we have Sarah Yip, the numbers queen, on today, and I thought, why not give you a little bonus of a bit of numerology? And I've been following Sarah on socials for a while. She's a master number 11. I'm going to let her sort of talk about how she got into numerology and how it plays out in her life and what she loves to do with it, because I've asked all of the astrologers what got them into astrology, Sarah. So I must ask you, darling, like the numbers and the energy, we want to hear all about it. And firstly, thank you so much for having this little extra bonus for all of our watchers.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to be here. I'm just honored. I'm really just excited about this. So you wanted to know how I got into numbers? Well, obviously being Chinese, it's in my DNA.
Yeah, true.
And then in terms of the spiritual side, that was quite late, actually. Really late. I think it was probably around my life past turning point age of 29, because I'm a 29/11. I would have been standing in a bookshop in Brisbane, the relaxation centre. I was looking at The Life You're Born to Live by Dan Millman, and this guy who'd met me once at a counselling course, he just bought it for me. He said, "Oh, that book, you should have that book." And it was one of those like amazing moments in my life. And I think around the time I'd also bought a numerology book, and I read them, and it was like the most natural thing for me. It just put everything together. And then, of course, I did everyone I know's charts, and I was sort of horrified at all the patterns. Made me feel a bit silly that I'd managed to miss that. But obviously I just wasn't ready. I needed to go through all my, shame and blame and overthinking stuff in order to then experience like a total freedom when I started to understand it. A lot of it wasn't personal. So very, very late to the game. But I actually have made up for lost time. I'm a bit of a overachiever. I'm always doing charts. Like if you leave me alone, I will do a chart just to occupy my time. I'll just be Googling some person. So my special interest is famous people's charts or people of note where they've done something really extreme.
Yeah, love that. And I love that it happened at 29 for you, which is Saturn return. So a lot of people, even a lot of stories that we come into with people coming into astrology was around their Saturn return. Like they might have said, I was sort of interested growing up, things like that, but it was that Saturn return point. So, and I love, this is something that Sarah's actually taught me, is that, that age that brings you to your life path. So 29/11, I'm a 33/6. If you're a 24/6, that's going to be different to a 42/6 and a 33/6.
Yes,
and I love that
they're quite different. They're quite
Absolutely.
different. Like you can have a Toyota Prius or a Toyota Land Cruiser, and they handle really differently. And a lot of numerology does just talk about those basic 13 or so life paths, but I go right into, the 45, 46 versions, which I'd only really seen in probably Dan's book and a couple of others, and it does take a lot more patience, but you get a lot more value, and the customization of it for me is much more fulfilling. Absolutely. But it's not as easy to explain, and there needs to be that understanding of the chakra system and things like that. So it requires a little bit of commitment, I'd say, the type of system I use.
Well, I had Dan Millman's book in my early 20s, probably about 20 years old. I got it. And because I've loved numerology since I was a little girl, because I was a 9. Yeah. I'm born on a 9 day and I'm a 33/6. So for me, I was just like, oh my God, these numbers, I love 9. And yeah, I really do love that you introduced me to, so 33 then was a pinnacle for me, 6 and 33. So you look at both of those numbers, which I absolutely love. So that was a really great thing that I learned off you years ago on social media, Sarah.
Thanks. Well, actually, I learned that off another numerologist who obviously probably learned it off someone else.
Yes.
And it's all just passed down. And I try to give credit where credit is due, but it's hard because there's just thousands of people involved in this. And I think that's why I feel a lot of responsibility to make it easy for people to understand. Because you just think of all the love that's gone into it, and you think, don't overcomplicate it and don't overprotect it, because then people get put off because they're already a little bit frightened of believing that they're a soul. And so if you make it scary for them, it is a little bit, I think, I don't know, arrogant is the word I would use. And I think it takes away from the forgiveness that I think is the main reason you would pursue numerology. Numerology is, for me, one of the most fastest, powerful techniques for experience forgiveness inside and outside. Because you, like I said, you can just see the patterns and you can literally just go, okay, tick. Thanks for the reminder. Like,
it's
for
very
example,
much like astrology. It's very much like astrology.
Absolutely.
It's your blueprint, right?
Yep, totally. And then I love that numerology is quite fixed and you have that free will how to use it. And then I also do palmistry and tarot, and that fleshes it out to just show you whether they are kind of following their soul contract or not. So I try to combine the hard and the soft things together. And of course, clairvoyance and stuff.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. That's awesome. For me, I've always been numerology and astrology from 9, because that to me gave acceptance, understanding. I love working out people's numbers and signs, and then that's just the fascination with humans has just been my prime thing. And I love how you said, because you're Chinese, numbers just run through your blood. I just love that. I'm just
they do. In Chinese, you've got to understand there's so many people. You are just a number.
Yeah, true.
And at some point you have to just get cool with that. And at the same time, there's a lot of power, because like with numerology, you can find your tribe and learn from them. So for example, on my site, I list hundreds of people of the different life paths, as Dan Millman does. And it just allows you to then go check out their life, what happened at their turning points, how do they use their powers for good or for evil. And I feel like that is such a treasure, and it's especially good for kids.
Absolutely. I love it. So let's dive into 2022, Sarah, because it's a big year astrologically, and hopefully all of my listeners have watched all of the videos and they've got all this juicy excitement. So let's add a little bit of numerology to the mix, because it weaves in so perfectly. And I would love to hear your take on 2022 6, which of course there's 3 2s and a 0, the 6 energy, the chakra, and all the things that you want to share with us around 2022 and this big 6 that we're going into, darling. So
yeah, thanks. So this is such a privilege. Firstly, in numerology, the system I use is the 9-year system. There's a 7-year system as well, but it's in the 9-year system. The last time we had that was 2012, which we all know was this humongous galactic type of year, portals opening left, right, and center. And I work with a lot of people who see 11, 11 and 12, 12, those star people. So we're building on that clarity that came through around 2012. So that's the first thing I'd say to people: go have a look at what was happening 2012 to 2013 for you. And it's just going to the next layer. Then you look within the number. So you've got the 2s, so many 2s. And 2 is the most prominent number in the new children's chart. So new children coming through have a lot of 0s, which is that spiritual wholeness. A lot of those children come and they just, they look at a leaf for half an hour. And you just think, is there something wrong with them? Or other people think, gosh, how sacred is that? And so there's just this fulfillment that they come in with, this innate maturity. And then, of course, the 2, the sacral chakra, super interesting, because it's about, do you consider yourself priceless, or do you sell yourself? Do you sell yourself for approval or profit or belonging? And that's going to be a very dicey question next year, because if people are not really honoring themselves, they'll find there's a lot of splits or like confusion and conflict. But I think, people are pretty switched on these days, literally. Even things like social media is spreading astrology and numerology faster than it's ever been spread before, which I think is fantastic. I think a lot of people have tweaked to this, that you have to be in relationship with yourself in order to have that stability with others. So there's just a very heavy relationship focus, especially with the 2, which tends to be more the feminine or sensitive people, or your sensitive side. So where that's, again, inspiring for me is that will be people wanting to understand their subconscious, wanting to understand their inner voice, wanting to develop psychically. And for me, psychic ability is actually a mother's love. It's a mother's protective love passed down. And so it's nothing to be frightened of. It literally connects you with your family. It keeps you safe. And it's been shown in, I guess, a lot of studies that mothers do know what's going on with their kids. They lactate if their babies are crying miles away. They often know if their child's been injured. And that makes sense, because those mothers had children that lived longer. So we've been bred to be connected to our loved ones. So heightened interest in the psychic areas, like perfect timing for your work, my work. And people will be highly sensitive, and I think they'll be looking for ways to ease that sensitivity. And so, yeah, they'll be looking for hacks. So that's the 2 energy and the 0 energy. Now the 6 is very interesting. So this is the 3rd eye. But it doesn't really work if these ones aren't already tip-top. So I personally noticed October being a 6 month this year, I had a lot of vision issues. A lot of like, where am I not seeing the bright side of things, or like physical issues with not being able to see. And what we'll see next year is people wanting a different vision. And a lot of people talk about the 3rd eye as where you either subscribe to the daily grind or this idea of work-life balance, or what I prefer to call rest-life balance. And it's like, yeah, when you have a spare bit of time, what is your first priority? I feel like that will be one of the biggest questions for the 6 energy, because see how the 6 looks like a pregnancy. It's like, are you taking in and choosing things that are going to increase your fertility, increase your creativity? Or are you taking in things that are sterilizing you, that are toxic for you, that are debilitating for you? So there'll be also a huge focus on diet. I think we'll see a lot of people switching off from certain social media things. Yeah, I mean, those are just touch points. Those are some touch points. So I think it will be quite an emotional year, especially with that 2-year anniversary, I suppose, of COVID, and people realizing life isn't going back. A lot of people say with grief, the first anniversary you can get through on adrenaline, but the second anniversary it really hits you. So I think February, March next year, with the February having that extra 2, I do think it'll be tricky. I do 12-month forecasts with my clients, and that kept coming up. It's that, oh, if only, it's a little bit like nostalgic, what if, and that's not very healthy, is it? It's not very healthy. So it's at times like those, I'd say, go learn meditation, go to your spiritual studies, even just spend time with people who value your sensitivity so that the anxiety doesn't spiral. Those are the sort of bigger stuff that's popping into my mind.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So I've written here about that deep feminine energy with all of the 2s, that high sensitivity. And
the sensitive side, because I'm very, I'm understanding that there's female, there's male, there's people who identify as different. And I guess I'm trying to be a bit careful. A lot of the New Age movement is very like, dualistic.
Yeah, but I just love that sort of the mother, like even just talking about the mother nurturing, if we just wanted to talk about that instinctual, intuitive nurturing. And the 2s are very much around get a strong meditation practice, get a strong spiritual sense of center. And 2s are 2 people too, so there's this element of cooperation and alignment with other people. Like when there's a lot of 1, it's that individual, but all of these 2s, it's like come together. And because we're in a Chinese tiger, the tiger is the protective family, like look at the way she is, so,
and it's even that eye of the tiger, the eye of the tiger, the vision. When you look at it too, I've done this before on TV, but so if you look at the 2, it belongs in a pair. It's a heart.
Yeah, love that.
Half a heart.
That's
and
beautiful.
We talk about the 2 as like, 2's company, or I always say you're over 2ing it, because 2 also looks like someone kneeling down constantly, number 2, rather than allowing themselves to have some, self-care and time out.
Yeah.
It's a very political issue. I wanted to show some pictures if I can. So what we saw, I think, in the last 2 years is the toppling of the pillars. The toppling of the pillars, and essentially people falling off their pedestals. So many people that we thought knew everything, we suddenly reveal, it's like the Wizard of Oz moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not to say it's a decline in the masculine, but it's a reimagining of what the masculine is best at. And I always think of the masculine as that containing energy. It's a containing energy for the feminine. Otherwise, I think the feminine, I know for me, I just keep going. There's no stop to my worry or to whatever it is. And my husband will just be like, that's enough. That's enough, rest now, go do those things. So there's that yin yang. I do still think next year people will still be quite stressed. I mean, you've got to understand this, like they talk about those roadmaps out of the pandemic, and I don't know, those roadmaps look pretty congested to me.
Yeah.
And I would wonder if actually a lot of these roadmaps, for some people, they're no longer going to travel by car. They're going to start doing astral traveling or the inner work, or because even if we do return, people don't want this, right? They don't want to sell their souls for this anymore now that they know they could work from home. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's going to be a lot of people who are like, this is unnecessary. I don't need to subscribe to presenteeism anymore. So, yeah, I think that's the rise of the new children that can't wait for. I find I actually talked about this in my predictions for 2020, talked about the panic bug, the heart stuff, and I said the new children want their parents to stay at home with them. They're actually pulling us. They're like, we have so much to share with you. Come and learn with us. And so I'm hoping more and more people will reset their priorities next year. But, humans, they've got free will. And some of us, including myself, we learn through ups and downs rather than helpful podcasts and things.
Well, and the word priority is a huge one. And that picture of just the family, because of the year of the tiger, the six is ruled by Venus as well, like Venus, that planet of love and relationships. Next year is another deeply steeped year of relationships, and priorities is something that I banged on about in my 2022 kit, because it is around what are your priorities. And I love Sarah's perspective on that the children are calling us home, but even in general, I'm just like, if you didn't get the wake up in 2020 that what's really important, and it's usually not the grind and the hustle and having a house and doing all that material shit, like this 6 year is giving us this exhale, this chance to re-anchor, reprioritize what is important, like the tiger. And I love that you said eye of the tiger, because obviously it's a third eye year as well, and the vision.
It's also a protective crystal, interestingly.
Yes.
But yeah, then you've got, of course, the feline, the galactic felines. There's all kinds of things.
Yes, there's so much sort of protective, familiar, like getting your familiar, that's how I'm seeing this now. It's like your familiar, not just your family, but the familiar people that you want to surround yourself with. And Venus is all things to do with relationships. And then in the tarot, okay, we look at the Lovers card, this is around your relationship with your partner. But then those twos, again, two people, union, divinity in two. I love the love heart analogy that you've got, but also then that relationship to the self as well, and the soul, and finding that love and cherishing the moments, because 2023 through 2026 are extremely huge years, numerologically and astrologically.
Yes,
we move from a 7, 8, 9 and a 1 year. Collectively, I'm like, they're 4 of the fucking hugest years that you can get. So
they're the strongest years in my date of birth and my grid. So I'm personally looking forward to it. But it is essentially, there's going to be a lot of sense of surrendering, and a lot of the witchy stuff will become completely normal, I believe. I wanted to mention, not everybody has children, but what you have is, of course, you have ideas and you have businesses. And in numerology, every word, name, and street, you can reduce it to a number. And actually, children has the same vibration as money. It has the same vibration as business. So even if people are not staying at home with their children, because I don't want to exclude people, staying at home with your business, your busyness, literally. For example, I run my business mainly from home. So I charge our property, the land spirits, with all these crystals and, good energy, and I benefit from that. So that's kind of also something that's important. Like I said, I want to make sure this is still relevant if people aren't wanting to have kids, because I know
Absolutely.
6 is also a lot about environment and social justice. And I've just finished a big article on the Irwins. Steve was a 6 and his granddaughter is a 6. They've got actually almost identical numbers. And animals, of course, the familiars. Cat is a 6. And of course, cats, tiger, visionaries. It all links. It all totally links.
It does. And and I also channel liquid crystals, and I'm a liquid crystal practitioner, but it's based on numerology as well. So the numbers are your name, and the same thing with a street and all those things in the liquid crystals. And I've actually channeled 3 liquid crystals to work with in 2022. They're all master numbers. And one of them is rhodochrosite, which is the cat, which is around self-love, which is a 6. So I didn't even know that cat was a 6 energy. So, oh my God, like you just can't make this shit up. But before we leave, because I know that we could talk for hours, I just wanted to sort of say, what about also people with a 6 life path? You know, I feel like there's that amplification if you're in a universal collective energy and that's your life path. How do you feel about that?
Well, the thing with numerology is the life path is the head and shoulders. It's the introduction. It's like the sun sign. And of course, you can have your name, your pinnacles, your date of birth grid. Some people have 666 in their date of birth. You've got your personal years. So wherever 6 is in your chart, obviously next year will bring that area to prominence.
Okay.
The 6 life paths have already been pretty shaken and stirred by this month, to be honest. And they tend to be visionaries and they sort of guardian angels. So they've already got an idea next year's important. But yes, of course, I'm already getting a huge influx of the 6s. It's interesting because the 33s like you, Tiarnie, you can't actually get any more 33s for, I think, several years now. The numbers won't allow it. So all the 33s are kind of activating really strongly. And at one point, 33% of my wait list was 33s, which is funny because they're only about 5% of the population.
Wow.
But they tend to be more interested in this kind of thing because, of course, the master number means you want to kind of cram twice as much, at least, in one lifetime. So they're looking for all the hacks. And numerology, astrology, there's that joke, you want to be what is it? I forget now, but millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do.
Yeah.
And I've certainly worked with plenty of people at different parts of society, and they're absolutely using this stuff all the time. Politicians, absolute top tier management, athletes, because it works.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, a little bit sad that very few of them ever talk about it openly.
Yeah.
But that is their choice, and part of my work is to bring it to the people who may not aspire to those echelons but want to learn from those people.
Yeah,
that's why I write as much as I can about numbers and then how people have used or misused them. So hopefully younger people and people who will come to this work will go, oh, that's cool. That's cool. So that's a thing to watch out for.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I mean, really, I'm, feeling so connected, obviously being a 6 as well, but feeling super connected to next year, 2022. And I'm my chart rule is Venus. So having Venus as, the planet of the year as well, plus the nodes, they're shifting into Venus, Pluto. So there's so much of this Venusian protective, family connected energy. So it's really exciting. So is there anything else before we wrap up, Sarah, that you would like to say about 2022 being a 6? Any tips or tricks?
Well, if you look at the number 6, it's embodiment. It's taken the energy in and it's literally brought it into the real world. And so next year it's like time to birth the ideas that you've been sitting on. It's time for your dreams to come true. Actually, keep a journal of your dreams because there'll be huge amounts of spiritual information pouring through us. I think probably the main thing with the number 6 is this idea of heaven and hell. A lot of my work is about unpicking religious trauma, I suppose you'd say. And I would say, like, for example, I've written about this, but things, like really question things like stories like Adam and Eve. For example, that story actually comes from a Sumerian myth where woman created man from a rib. Really obvious basic stuff that no one seems to Google. Really question your gods, because otherwise they do set the limit and that will then cause annoyance and frustration, and then you'll spread that to your community. So question your gods is actually what I would say for next year. And that's as someone who has been in very strong Christian faith. I'm happy to still work with, ascended masters and stuff, but I like to feel like I actually have a voice and that we're allowed to be colleagues rather than kind of little breadcrumbs.
Love that. That's so true. That discernment is crucial. And I love the embodiment, because as you said, the 6 is this, for me, it's that element of the cosmic mother as well. She's the cosmic mother with what she wants to birth. So I love that, you know, there seems to be fertility, you know, strong fertility around, whether that's projects, children, you know, birthing, you know, we're birthing a new humanity at the same time. So the 6 year is really, really, you know, it's powerful, but
it can be,
gentleness,
it can
as
be
well.
so luscious. I met my husband in my 6th personal year, 6th personal month, and actually it was a number 15 day, now that I think about it. And he was also in the same cycles, and, you know, we're still together 9 years later. And I personally feel next year could be very delightful, but I think people just need to understand that emotions will be very, very hectic, and they will need practices that they can use on an everyday basis, you know, kind of like what you write about in your books.
Yeah, the triple two. The triple two, right? Like, it's super sensitive. Exactly.
It's like enlightenment is something that you get in small doses, and then you're able to integrate, and just that idea of just, I'm enlightened in 1 second through this weekend course. I feel like that has hopefully started to go out the window, because that causes huge trauma to a lot of people. Yes, it works for some, but for a lot of people, it is setting them back, you know, 2 lifetimes.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, I wrote a book called
Gentle with the Dosage. Gentle with the dosage.
Literally the enlightenment stuff. And, you know, I think that even just the 6, again, coming back to family, you know, Mother Teresa said, if you want to change the world, start in your own home. And that's what my book's about. Everyday enlightenment, magic in the mundane. And I think that magic in the mundane really stirs up, because there is something sort of magical around a 6 as well, that creation.
You know the word magic.
Is it a 6?
It has a 24 vibration, the same as truth. God. And so I have such a fun time with words, because I just go, I totally knew that, but I just needed to see it in black and white. And magic is the truth, and the truth is magic.
And it's a 6.
And it is, and it allows us to think for ourselves. So look, the one thing I want to mention, 6s do have some downsides, and one of the biggest ones is they sometimes forget that not everybody is telepathic. They're pretty visionary, right? So it's really important, as part of the 6's energy next year, is keep communicating with your people, like what you are doing. Because some of them will keep up with you, but some of them will like, I feel abandoned. Where did you go? So it's kind of like if you go on leave, because I've had 3 babies in 5 years, you go on leave, you know, at least let them know when you'll be back.
Great. Keep that communication lines open.
Really important.
Really great. Oh, Sarah, so awesome. And magic and truth being a 6 as well. Like, seriously, you can't make that shit up. I love this so much. I could talk to you for hours. But I just want to really, really thank you. That was so much exciting information for everyone. Really, really appreciate it, and look forward to, you know, connecting more as the year progresses, darling.
Totally. Yes. Thanks so much. So just confirming, my name is Sarah Yip. Sarah Anderson on the screen is my married name. But yes, so thank
Sarah
you
Yip,
so much.
the numbers queen. And yes, we'll have all the links to everyone's websites, of course, in the email, as you will be able to see. So thank you so much, Sarah.
See you.
Thanks,
See you next
beautiful.
time. Bye.
Bye.